This episode of Fermented Adventure the Podcast features Meghan Farley of Winterset Cidery. We had a lively conversation about how Winterset got started, how Meghan went from a winemaker to a cider maker extraordinaire and tasting some of their amazing ciders. Be sure to reach out to Meghan and Winterset Cidery and let them know what you thought about the podcast. Cheers! Hello, ladies and gentlemen, craft spirit enthusiasts, and those interested in the intoxicating world of craft distilleries, cideries, meaderies, wineries, and the occasional foray into breweries. It's Rich Shane, and welcome to Fermented Adventure, the podcast, where we bring you the fascinating people that are making the mash, fermenting, distilling, bottling, pouring, and delivering to you some of the finest libations in the world. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. Thank you for bringing the podcast into wherever you are and whatever you're doing. We truly are grateful that you have chosen to listen and make us part of your day. It would mean the world to us if you left a 5-star review. This helps us climb in the rankings and it makes it easier for others to find us. Don't hesitate to leave us your comments as well. If the podcast didn't meet your expectations, tell us why. We're always striving to improve. You can find us at fermentedadventure.com. We are on Instagram and Facebook as Fermented Adventure. Email us at fermentedadventure@gmail.com. All right, FA Nation, let's meet our guest. She's Meghan Farley. I'm Rich Shane. This is Fermented Adventure, the podcast. Meghan, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, now, beyond excitement today, because we get to talk with you, one of our favorites from CiderCon, and you're from Iowa. So Winterset Cidery, how did all that get started?
So Nick and Niña Williams are the owners currently, and they purchased it back in August of 2019, I believe it was. And they came just as customers, and they just fell in love with it. They were walking out in the orchard. We have a Williams Pride apple tree. And with their last name being Williams, they were just like starstruck by it a little bit, and they just fell in love. A lot of our marketing material has sun rays on it, and that's because there was a sunset that night, and that was just like the most memorable moment for them. And so they decided to make an offer on the place, and lo and behold, now they're the owners.
Okay, I've got to stop right there and just say they walked in, had cider, and said, "We're buying this place. We want to. This is ours that we want to have and share the cider world." You know, the idea is, did they have any experience in cider prior to that?
No, they didn't. No, I know they're kind of crazy, right?
Well, I wouldn't say it's crazy. I would say it's passion. I would say that that was such a wonderful experience that they had. Many people, like for Dawn and I, would go into a cidery and say, you know, maybe we can try to make this cider. Not, how about we buy the cidery?
I know. That's what is kind of great about Nick and Niña. They're just passionate people. When you come here, which I hope you do, you'll feel it in the energy with our staff, with them. They just bring this great energy to this environment, and it's just a lovely place to be. You'll see when you get here, I promise.
Okay, so 2019, you're pre-pandemic. Where do you come into the picture with Winterset Cidery?
So April of 2022. So coming up on a year. My background's in winemaking, actually, and I've just kind of fallen in love to the cider industry. And I thought, heck, let's try it. And so I stopped being a winemaker and started being a cider maker, and I haven't looked back since. Now
let's go back a little bit. Your background is in winemaking.
Yeah.
How did you get into, the love and enjoyment of wine, and then take that a little further and want to make wine yourself?
Yeah. So I was actually down in Texas at the time, and I was there working for a little vineyard and winery in Athens, Texas. And I just loved it. I mean, I've never been the type of person to like want an office job or to sit there and do paperwork all day, that's boring to me. I want the dirty job. I want to be outside. I want to I don't know. I just fell in love with the environment of it because if you've been in a production facility, like while you're pressing grapes or apples or whatever it may be, like it's dirty work. And it's just fun. I really enjoy that aspect of it a lot. And so I just kind of fell in love with it down there in Texas. And when I decided I'm going to move back home to where I'm from in Iowa, I made it a point to get a job at a winery.
Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs would be so happy right now that you talked about the fact that, your passion, your enjoyment is getting dirty, getting hands-on, getting into just the heart of what comes out of making wine. And in this case now, what comes out of making cider. Before, when you were a wine maker, were there wines or varietals that you would gravitate towards that were special to you or enjoyable for you?
Yeah, definitely. So down in Texas was different than Iowa. Here in Iowa, we've got like really cold, hardy varietals. Some that come to mind right away are Edelweiss, Marquette. I love a good Maréchal Foch. They can kind of get like a little weird in the nose, but if it's blended right, it can do really well. But down in Texas, I love Tempranillo. We had some little baby Merlot vines that we're producing, and Blanc de Bois. So I have a lot of passion for like single varietals, and that's something that I'm hoping to kind of collaborate a little bit with the cider industry.
Now, you spoke to the fact that, yes, as a winemaker, you enjoyed that, but then something you sunk your teeth into this cider idea.
Yeah.
What was it for you about cider that brought you into the idea of production and wanting to make that cider?
Yeah. So I think it's because, there's wineries everywhere. And even here in Iowa, that we have a ton of wineries and that's great. But I think it was just because it's such an up and coming thing. There's so much possibilities with the cider industry here in Iowa. I bet there's less than 5 of us here. And wineries, there's over 100 of us. And so I just saw the potential longevity with it. And I thought, why not try it?
With the demographics of those in Iowa drinking or trying cider, I know your tap room, your tasting room isn't open now.
Right.
What the demographics, who are you seeing coming in and their level of experience with cider? Who are those, guests or customers now for you that are walking in?
Ours is really, it's different than the wine. I'll say that. It's a different demographic. Ours is more like 21 to maybe 45, somewhere in there. It's a bigger demographic. And don't get me wrong, we still have 50 plus that still come in and enjoy it. But I would say that 21 to 45 range is pretty accurate to who we're serving. We have like root beer here, and we allow people to bring dogs and whatnot. And so it's just a very family friendly environment. And I think that really comes across well to people who just want to hang outside and drink some cider and enjoy the weather,
So I've never been to Iowa yet. I think maybe I drove through there once on the way west, and the idea of just experiencing what I would say is a very unique opportunity where you may have some varietals, your seasons are going to be different. I find that very interesting in terms of, I love the terroir. I love the provenance of wineries. And we enjoy speaking to different regions of, orchard producers, cider makers, because when you start to get down to the heart of it, where you're cultivating, those trees and where you're getting that juice for those apples is very special to what is going to go into the bottle. So for you, where are you sourcing those apples from those orchards? Are they local? Are they close? How does that work for Winterset?
So we do source from Iowa. Everything that we've sourced has come from Iowa. We work with a grower outside of Iowa City, which is about 2 hours away from us or so. But he grows only cider apples, which has just been fabulous because I could pick and choose any varietal that I want basically, and, say, blend this with that, or I can go there and press with them, and we can just kind of do whatever we want to make something really special. Here on our property, we have 6 acres, and we've got 38 different varietals. and that's a combination of dessert, heirloom, and cider apples. And so I definitely have my choice of what I want to do with them there as well.
Not seeing, the cidery yet or your orchard. Where are you in the production, or what you're really getting to produce out of that 6 acres and those different varietals? Are you seeing that grow? Are you looking to expand? Where are you in sourcing your own apples for what you're looking to make?
Sure. So I definitely think that we're always expanding more. One thing the owner always says, if you always do it the same way, you'll always get the same result. And that's just something we kind of live by here. So you never expect the same thing with us, but we always want to try and improve and do things differently. And so with the orchard, there's definitely a plan for maybe in the future to get some new trees in, get them on a trellis system. Because right now it's set up for like a U-pick orchard. It's very much a perfectly groomed, beautiful apple tree. Like, it's just very beautiful and simple, which is great for our customers. Not so much for the person who's got to be out there picking the apples. And so eventually we would like to lean into that a little bit more.
What really resonates with me here is it's the maturity of the orchard and the maturity of the cidery that are going hand in hand. As you pointed out, right now, if you came onto the orchard, you'd see something that is just these beautiful pruned apple trees versus you go into other, you go into other orchards, other cideries where they do have that trellis system. So now I think it becomes even more purposeful to get the most out of those apples, those trees, to produce the most juice, the flavor that you can get as possible. One of the things you said is that, I think for the owner, Nick, what he was saying was, you never know what to expect, right? Because it's an apple. And you can blend different varietals sometimes that may have some different nose characteristics. Sometimes you'll get more acidity or more sweetness, more sugar out of those apples than you anticipated year to year. I would say what I guess or what I would expect is the common thread going through Winterset is consistency in quality, that you're not going to sacrifice just because it's a little bit different year to year. You want that high level of quality consistently.
Absolutely. And that's something that is so important to us. And when it comes to like apple pressing, I mean, we pick all of them and we sort all of them. Not one apple goes untouched that is not like taking a look at and saying, okay, well, this is a quality apple, we're going to press it. If it's got a ding on it, if it's got some, if it's got anything that is just not up to our standard, it does not get pressed. And that's incredibly important to me and the owners. I just want to make the best product ever.
So you want to just make the best product ever, right?
Yeah, I want it to taste good. I want there to be tannins. I want there to be good aroma, good mouthfeel. I want it to go down just as easy as, a nice glass of wine. I want it to be like an experience for them, for sure.
As a cider maker and a cider maker that's relatively new to the industry with a winemaking background,
for sure,
what do you believe is your personality, or what is it that you're really structuring your cider that you're looking to create?
I would just say, I don't know. I just want to do things a little bit differently than I did before. I mean, with wine, it's very much like those single varietals. You blend a little bit. You do, you can be creative with wine, but I feel like there's so much more creativity to be had in the cider industry. I mean, the bottles I sent you today, that we'll try here pretty soon. I mean, lime habanero, citrus hops. Looking at our menu board, we've got guava, like a sangria cider. I mean, we've got so many different fun flavors. And I think that that's important for us, just to keep making those really fun and unique flavors, and important to me.
Okay, you just created a very difficult situation for me, because you read some wonderful things that we have been gracious to get, but now you just upset me because you said things that I don't have in front of me. And
I know.
it's like, wow, you should have been here. We have this wonderful, I've never had a sangria cider. That would have been wonderful, but we do. I love, so for Dawn, I love the hops. I love anybody that's introducing hops to a cider. And I gravitate towards that, but I'm less inclined to gravitate towards an IPA. I think there's such a wonderful balance between hops and apples where that's not transferred to me when it comes to a beer, unless there's a lot of juiciness to it. Now for Dawn, she likes it spicy. So that habanero, I don't even know how this bottle made it into the tasting today, because I expected that she would have just hid the bottle because she opened the box. I would never. Oh, look, Winterset sent us they sent us 2 bottles. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. And should have been, I don't know what happened. 2 bottles. That's all. I swear, 2 bottles.
Yeah, no, that's it's really funny how, just we've got like 15 flavors on tap and they're all really unique, all really different. Not one is nearly the same as the other. It's super fun to do.
As a cider maker, what have been some of those aha moments for you where you got some feedback or some recognition, or those experiences where you said, I'm on to something. This is where I belong?
Honestly, CiderCon. The feedback that we got at CiderCon, I was blown away. Like, I was so excited to be there for one, but just that night that we did the cider share and everyone went around the room and everyone was pouring, and just the feedback was so cool, so good. And it made me feel like I made a good decision, like this was right.
Now, that's always wonderful to get that recognition from your peers and those that have a passion for cider. What were some of your other CiderCon experiences that you had?
Honestly, just the meeting some of the people I haven't I mentioned earlier, like in Iowa, there's not a lot of resources for cider. It's kind of, it's not new. People have been doing it for years here, but it's not as like easily accessible to like call someone up and be like, hey, I've got this going on. Like, what do you think? Or, to talk someone through a problem you may be having. And so that was really nice. Like, that was just great to walk away with, I think, like 50 some business cards, of just people who are like willing to talk cider and to talk through some problems or troubleshooting. That was great for me.
I think that resource alone raises your level of quality. And now you do have people to reach out to if you're thinking about trying something, if you're running into a problem you've never run into. These are people now. Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful testament to what the American Cider Association is doing, and just the ability to have more people know they're not alone.
Yeah, for sure. And I can only assume that it's going to continue to just blow up here in the Midwest. We're having such great success. Everyone around us is having such great success. I know that it's just going to continue to get better and better.
And what'll happen is you'll be the mentors. They'll be coming to you for answers, and you'll be like the old, the OG cider.
I hope so. I hope so.
How did Winterset? How did the name come about?
So we're in Winterset, Iowa.
Okay, that was easy, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, that was easy. I thought maybe there was like more history or something behind that, or it was a family name. Nothing. This is where we are. Plant the flag.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's all right. I love the name. And I guess it conjures up different visions. Like you said, I think the sun, utilizing the sun in branding and marketing. What's the idea behind that?
Well, a lot of our marketing material is actually inspired from like Wisconsin, and that just being like up north in the woods and like being really like tucked away. And you can kind of see behind me, maybe like we're in a post and beam building, and it's just very like rustic. And so I think that some of that leans into that a little bit, but also, going back to what I said about Nick and Niña, just being here the first time, like beautiful sunset on the horizon, and then just being surrounded by all the beautiful apple trees. It's something that they will never forget, and something that they wanted to make sure that they marketed.
What I'd like to do now is let's open some bottles. Let's drink some cider and
Absolutely.
get your perspective as a cider maker on, just the flavor profiles, where you were going with this. And when we come back, we're going to start opening bottles. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Pardon the interruption. If you like what you hear, if you love what you're hearing, please share the podcast. Please take a screenshot of the podcast, post it on your social media, tag us just to let everybody else know about Fermented Adventure, the podcast. We'd be grateful for your help to grow our podcast. We're back. And where we are now, Meghan, I'm like, we haven't opened these yet. I'm salivating. We've got 3 bottles here. Which one should we start with first?
Let's start with the estate, just because it's the less drier of the 3, and let's do that.
We're going to start with the estate blend. Talk about the apples as I open this. Talk about the apples that go into this, maybe how long this takes to, ferment, or the process of making this, and why this is the estate blend. Sure.
So this one here is a combination of the apples that are grown here on our property, hence the name estate. So we really just press them all together, just because in previous years, they weren't getting a lot off their orchard. This year was a completely different story. We had a great crop, and we got a ton more juice than what we usually do. But this right here is a combination of some of those dessert, heirloom, and cider apples.
One of my most joyous moments is opening up a bottle.
Yeah.
And when all that effervescence, all that apple goodness has been waiting to come out.
Yeah.
And it's a foot away, and I can already smell it. And it's like, now I can't wait, because it's already introduced itself to me and saying, hey, here I am, enjoy. And the nose, just even coming out of that bottle right away, it took me back to CiderCon in Chicago. And I'm like, this is why we fell in love with this cidery. And not to mention, by the way, you, because you were there pouring, you had like dozens of people just coming back and forth and, giving you compliments. And, it was just wonderful. This is just great. So does this estate blend, you mentioned cider, the apples from your orchard, does this blend change from year to year?
I would say so, just depending on the season and how much we're getting off of one certain varietal, could change the impact on the tannin a little bit. But this one, in particular, what you're drinking here is also what I got. And I just think that this one's got the perfect amount of tannin, because it's not overbearing, and it's got, it's such an easy introduction cider to the first person. If you've never been to a cidery, this is a good introduction, I'd say.
There is, to me, I get so much honey on the nose, so much wildflower.
So
what? No, I didn't see your notes. Don't tell me that.
I know. I'm like, that's what I got.
It's very flowery, honey forward.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking Iowa, then I'm just picturing the bees buzzing around all those apple blossoms and going back to the hives and coming back and forth. But it's so wonderful. I almost would say, if I didn't know this was a cider, now you do get the juiciness of the apple. That is certainly there. I get what I perceive as the tannin on the nose. You get the skins of the apples. That's definitely there.
Yeah.
But if somebody said this could be a mead just on my nose, it's possible. It really is. It really is.
It's got a great aroma. I mean, I'm really happy with the color. All of our ferments are pretty clean ferments. So I'm just really happy with the clarity on it as well. Floral, citrus, really that fresh fruit, that fresh apple, like you said. It's all the notes I got. You nailed it on the head with that one. When we get into tasting it, it's really got a nice light body, but it's super bright and aromatic and just, it's easy drinking.
I also get a little bit of berry on the nose for me. And I think there's a lot of play between the floral, the wildflower and the honey that really brings about for there. And even on the color, and in a way, the first thing that I thought of is like, this almost looks beer-like in certainly some of the color that you get out of that. So there's so much enjoyment right here on the look and the nose. Let's get into trying this. I don't want to wait anymore.
Cheers.
Cheers. I don't see this as being high in acid. There's the tannin there. I can, certainly my mouth is getting that dry salivatory. Is that a word? Salivatory. I'm getting that. And I am also, really getting this juicy, appley, saucy kind of a mouthfeel. It's not a very viscous cider, but what it does is, I think with the tannins, it stays. So you get this dryness, apple, and it keeps coming back as you bring oxygen in and out of your mouth as you kind of, work through it.
Yeah, it's so well balanced. That's what I love about the estate, is it just gives you that juiciness that you want out of a cider, but also that little bit of tannin and astringency that's just really nice to pair with food and stuff like that.
I truly believe what you said is very accurate in this introductory cider that you provide. So if you get guests that come to your cidery that have never had cider before, or I have had cider, but I'm more that, the ones I've had have been those very sweet, more mass-produced ciders.
Right.
This is something to, I'm going to say it, kind of call them off the ledge kind of a way.
Right.
I, in a lot of ways, and in the conversations I have, when we talk to people about our enjoyment of cider, it's almost like talking to people about gin. And maybe they just didn't have that wonderful cider experience comparative to wine, but they've had this off experience compared to maybe what would happen drinking gin that one time. And then they just don't want to get back into it. And I really feel if you wanted to introduce somebody and make them a fan of cider, this is a wonderful cider to start with. Yeah. Because there's a balance between dryness, tannin, but there's also a wonderful sweetness. And that honey comes back again. That sweet honey, appley. Like if I'm going to grab one of those, more sweeter varietals of apples, this is where that's going to fall into me.
Yeah, and you would think that we'd back sweetened it with honey, but because I get the same thing with it, but that little bit of sweetness is just enough to cut any of that acid that was there, just to make it a really well balanced, really good quality product, in my opinion.
That tannin, those skins, that dryness almost slightly mirrors maybe a little bit of barrel aging. And I know from what we talked about, there's no barrel aging here.
Oh, I love that though.
You almost get leathery or tobacco notes on the back end of this.
Yeah.
Eleanor Leger was a guest on our podcast recently, and she's president of the Cider Association. And one of the things that she mentioned on the podcast was thinking or the experience of the cider from a color. So I'm trying to adapt to that. And all I keep thinking in my head, and as I sip this, I get like this yellow. And then I'm thinking, well, you did mention like the sun and sunsets, but I'm getting this like straw yellow, this muted yellow. There's nothing in this room here where I'm broadcasting from that has yellow, but that's what's coming in my head. So yellow.
That's awesome. That's how I was like trained to smell, like wine, cider is like smell colors. So It's so funny. I always say that the same way.
So what color are you smelling on this?
I agree. I mean, with the honey, it's just undeniable. It's there for sure. That beautiful.
This cider to me, open this up, share it with friends. It's going to go well with a lot of different foods. I would say maybe not a lot of things that have spice or are overpowering in a way, but this is just a wonderful, open it up. You're at the beach, you're, sitting on the back deck, watching that sunset. That's like the wheelhouse for the cider. Are there any other ideas or any food pairings that you kind of think about or you've done?
I think like with this one, I always go, I mean, this is just me personally, but I always lean into seafood with this quite a bit, like salmon, even some veggies. I don't like to pair veggies like with like cider or anything, but like, I think like a cooked vegetable is actually goes well with this one.
That's good because we're doing broccoli tonight. So we'll,
there you go. I think it'll go great with that.
We've got the lime habanero and we've got the hop. Yes.
Yeah.
So which one should we go to next?
Let's do the citrus hops. I know you guys like this one.
Okay.
Well, but I know she loves the lime habanero.
Now, what this says on the bottle is craft hard apple cider.
Yeah.
So that has hops in it because it says it right at the top. Citrus hops.
Yeah. We actually use a cascade, like a citrus cascade hop on this one. And we source them locally just from a guy not too far from where we're located. On the nose on this one, you get a little piney, but I really love the citrus that comes through.
Stop. That's what I was going to say.
I love it. It gets those more green notes, but it's not like in a flawed way. It's just very aromatic, and it kind of brings you back to being in Wisconsin or, just being up there in the Northwoods.
Here's what I love right away. By pouring that, you do get a little bit of, I'm going to say, like the head on the top of that. Because my head is, all right, hops, beer, hops, kind of an idea. The second I open that pininess, those hops just hit the air. And that was a wonderful overture to just what I was about to experience. With this, is this the same apple varietal that you're using in your estate, or is this something totally different?
I would say it's different. So these are going to be more of those cider apples that we're sourcing out of Iowa City.
This is where I just want to grab maybe a book or get lost in YouTube and just sit here and just smell and just, I wouldn't drink this. I don't want to warm this too much, but the nose on this is so like I don't want to assume that I'm being influenced, but I do get lime. I get a lot more of those. And I'm sure that's the hops where I get more of that rind, that citrus rind on the nose, but the floralness of these hops, the earthiness that's there, the brightness of the apple really shines through.
Yeah, that's what I love about this one. It's just bright. It's acidic. I mean, it's good.
You hit it.
Yeah.
The minute the acid's there, the citrus is there. And that's a wonderful vehicle to bring those hops in. Because what you do is you get almost a sweetness again, but the hops really lingers. And it's not that bitterness of the hops. It's the floral notes of the hops, the plant. Can I say plantness of the hops? Is that a thing? The plantness of the hops?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Don't always ask this because she's fun that way. And she says, "Do you guys make anything bad?"
I love that. That makes my heart happy. This one in particular, really, I love the tannin on this. You can tell personally, I can tell like that it's not the same apples. It's got like a lot more astringency on it. And it could be that hops coming into play a little bit too. I think that those can add a little bit of complexity, but this one is just, it's complex, and that's why I like it. You could sit there and you can linger on a glass, and every time you're like taking notes on it, you come up with something new on it. You know what I mean?
The more I sip this, you're right about the tannins that come through, but there's so much more citrus. There's so much more of that sour, and there's so many places this is going that, again, it's got a lot of characteristics of a sour beer. It really does. But the wonderful part of this is the apples are really what is saying, hey, we're here and we're going to now give you all these other things to enjoy in this cider.
Yeah.
I've really been on this conversation for me where I say, why not cider? And where you are in Iowa, what would you say, or where do people gravitate towards? Is it beer? Is it wine? Is it distilled spirits? And where is cider starting to fit into the conversation to say, if you're going to do this and you're going to go to a bar or a restaurant, why not cider?
Right. I honestly think it's getting up there with the wineries. Like, we have a lot of distilleries. We have a ton of breweries, especially downtown. Like, downtown Des Moines got a great amount of breweries. But I think we're leaning into that winery space a little bit. I mean, we're classified as a winery as our license. But besides that, like, I think that it's kind of got the same escape. You know what I mean by that? It's like you go and it's this little oasis that you can sit back, have a nice product in your glass, and you can chill. And I think that that's really what we offer here too. I mean, we are out in a field, like, it's just clear skies. Like, there's some trees and whatnot, and obviously the orchard, but it's just beautiful out here, and it's a little escape. And so I think that's what we're kind of leaning into a little bit, is just making it so you don't have to be downtown to enjoy a nice drink. You can come out here and enjoy nature and enjoy your family, your friends, your dog. We want to have that space for everyone right here.
I am putting the Iowa Tourism Board on alert that they need to make you an ambassador for tourism in Iowa, because the more you talk about Iowa, the more I just want to pack the car or find a flight out and get to experience all that you just talked about, and really try these ciders where they're being produced and get that full Winterset Iowa experience. But if the tourism board really hasn't contacted you yet, we'll start working on that. I don't know anybody there, but they really should, because look, this is what happens when a cidery opens up, when a coffee shop opens up, when a brewery opens up in a small community. That helps grow the community. When a cidery opens up in a state where there are not a lot of them, this becomes tourism. This becomes a destination. And the more that destination happens, more revenue for the state, more recognition for the state. And as a destination, this is where at Winterset people want to go. Now, we talked off the podcast in the beginning. What are the hours where the tap room, where your cidery is open for visiting? When can people start to come and visit the cidery?
Sure. So we actually open our doors May 5th this year. We're starting it a little, I think typically it's like that mid-May, but this year we're doing it Cinco de Mayo. We're having a big party. We want everyone to come out. There'll be new releases of products that are really exciting. You would love it.
Yeah. Sorry you can't be here, but we'll be enjoying this in your absence. You'll have, we'll show you pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, seriously, follow us though.
And where do people follow you on Instagram?
Winterset Cidery. Simple as that. Same with easy. Our website, Facebook, all of that.
That's easy.
But yeah, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, we'll have that. We're going to do a new cider release. We are also, with it being a celebration, we're going to have a mariachi band out here. We're going to have a taco, some type of food truck serving the best tacos in town. But it'll be a great time. We always have a party out here, so you might as well come join it, right?
By the way, when you said tacos, I'm grabbing a bottle of this citrus hops. I'm grabbing my tacos, and I'll be in a cider food coma there in the corner for a couple hours with the mariachi band and everything going on. That's tremendous. May 5th. I mean, the podcast will go live sometime in the beginning of April. So it'll give people a month to start making their travel plans. And It's almost like that, that when, if you build it, they will come. If you open, they'll visit. So it's Iowa, Field of Dreams. So this is Winterset Cidery is Cidery of Dreams. So you're going to see that long line of cars coming off of the interstate to go. They don't know why they're going to go. They're just going to go. And
you would not believe the crowds we get out here. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
that must, the idea that of that kind of experience for you as a cider maker, but what motivates you? What gets you out of bed every day?
I think it's just like seeing the full, being there every step of the way, man. Like, it's, you press the apples yourself, You picked them yourself, you fermented it, you've monitored it, it's your baby, you care for it, like it is yours. And so having to see it all the way through to the bottle is like the best feeling ever. Because it's like, okay, that's done. Let's go raise another child.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love your word analogies and the way you tell that story. That's awesome. All right. We've got Dawn's favorite until she, tries the sangria one, but
yeah, she'll love it.
We've got this lime habanero, and for transparency, I like this one too. So
yeah, I know. I think this was if I remember right, this was Dawn's favorite.
Yeah.
But this, honestly, this is our number 2 bestseller, and it's crazy because most people anyone who's come to the cidery and it's their first time, they look up at that menu and they're like, absolutely not. No, I can't do spicy. That person who like doesn't like that spice in their life, we get them to try this because it's like the most simplest, softest, sweet heat, and that's what I love about it. And it's great with mixing any of our flavors with. If you want to add a little spice, a little pepper, it's good.
I almost want to compare notes, but I want to write all this down before you tell me the same thing I'm thinking. So I almost want to hold up like our tasting or our nosing card and see where we are consistently on this. But on the nose, I see you nosing that now. What do you get on the nose on this?
I get a little bit of pepper on this one, that fresh apple. I don't know. It's almost like a little pear in there too, but it's the most subtleness. Which obviously it's not made with it, but I still get that in this one quite a bit. I think this one gets really interesting whenever you start drinking it.
All right, I'm so glad on the third one we don't have the same things. This is like, all right, we didn't plan this. This is good. Yeah. So we can continue the conversation to go, wow, this is boring. You think the same way. You have the same thoughts. Why would I want to keep drinking cider with you? This is boring. I get that honey that comes through again. But what's nice about this is that honey picks up that habanero, not the spiciness, but the earthiness of the pepper. So yeah. I get that peppery, that vegetable note on the nose. And to your point, all right, I'm going to give it up. Yeah, I got pear. So thank you for that. But all three of these, just from an experience of senses, is first rate and really at a high level. And one of the things that I'm going to feel and I'm going to say is those that get to visit the cidery, I'm kind of jealous because what they're experiencing, hopefully they recognize, is a high-end cider producer with whimsy, with personality, with charm, with character. And I think that's what's important in the cider industry, that when we kicked off CiderCon, I think it was Michelle McGrath, and I don't remember if I'm quoting her incorrectly, I apologize. But, don't take yourself, cider is serious, but don't take yourself too seriously. And
absolutely
I think
not.
That's exactly what you're doing. You're making serious cider, but you're not taking yourself too seriously.
No, that's like one thing is, and I tell my boyfriend this all the time too. And just like people I meet, like I never want to have a huge ego where I can't just sit down and like recognize, okay, this isn't working. Let's try something else. Or like, I never want to be to the point where I'm not helping others in the industry. Like I really try and check myself because my success has come from networking and resourcing people. And I just want to share that with others. And so I really love that compliment. Thank you so much.
On the mouth, I get Sour Patch Kids. And oh no, don't tell me you said that. No,
I didn't, but I love that. That's such a fun one.
I get Sour Patch Kids, but I also get, again, here's what I would say. This is so approachable if you like a little spice and you're not like, I'm afraid it says habanero on it. No, it's warming. It's tingly, but it's not burning.
Yeah, it gets your sensations going.
With the citrus, with the sour, and with just a little bit of that spice, this, again, tacos, This. Right,
Yeah,
right there.
I know. Yeah, this one could go. I mean, really, you could eat this with candy. Like you could eat it with tacos, maybe even some enchiladas. This one can go really different ways with pairing. But I do think that this one is just a really fun and unique flavor, and I'm so glad it sells because it's one of our favorites here.
I can see why. And realistically speaking, this one doesn't have the same level of tannins, that same level of dryness that the other two do. This is almost like, I'm going to say it, this is almost like a cider margarita.
Yeah.
In a glass.
That's what we kind of like, with the Cinco de Mayo coming up, that's like what we want to try. It's like a little ciderita type thing. We want to do something with that. We want to.
I'm thinking salt the rim, or, maybe like that chipotle on the rim, like dip half of it. So you can just whatever that sounds like fun.
Yeah. This one, I think, sorry, I'm going back a little bit, but I was just thinking about food pairings. And I think that this one would go great with like any type of salad too. Like, I feel like that spiciness would like translate very well into like an acidic dressing, or like a balsamic even. Sorry to go back.
No, that's great. Look, I mean, because one of the things I think is important as a wine producer that, in your background, everybody says, all right, wine, what would you pair this with? Right. Now, it's very simple to start to say, all right, what cheese would this go with? But, when we treat cider with the idea of most of the time, if we're going to pick up an adult beverage, if it's like a wine, if it's like a cider, what food would this pair with? And I think that's important. I think that's the important part of the conversation, that when you look at a long list of wines on the menu, why not cider? Go to that restaurant, that bar, that establishment, and say, what ciders do you have? Because the more we ask for them, I don't want to trounce the wine industry.
Right.
I want to elevate the cider industry to be recognized for the quality and the experience that you're going to have. Plus, with the alcohol, the alcohol levels may be different than wine, and just some different experiences you're going to have with a cider versus a wine.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's completely different, but it's also the same. It's a similar experience, but they're just completely different profiles. I don't know, it's been a lot of fun. I will say the last year has been a crazy ride, but I've learned so much, and just going from that very, I don't know, you don't mess with the formula too much with wine, but here the creativity is wide open, and I just absolutely love that.
Are there ciders in your mind, or ciders you've kind of jogged some notes down about, that you're looking forward to producing, which haven't come to fruition yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say, I mean, this will be maybe news to some, but last year we did a strawberry cider drop, and it sold out like within like 10 days. It was crazy. It was so good. And this year that's going to come back on our menu, and it's going to stay the whole year. So I think people will get really, really excited about that. I'm personally excited about that because that was like one of my little babies. But this year we're going to do some more weird flavors. I want to work with some fresh blueberries. I want to work with the grower. We're going to rework that formula maybe a little bit. So maybe they'll see that in the future. Maybe some watermelon, that's been thrown around a little bit as well. Never expect, like the same thing with us. We'll surprise everyone.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out there because I tend to be this creative mad scientist of things that I would love to taste at one time. But this particular cider, in a barrel that had tequila in it, and I would love to see what happens with that.
Yeah,
that's what I would love. All right, that's just me. I come up with ideas. Maybe you want to try it out. Maybe you'll surprise somebody someday.
Yeah,
you never know what could happen. Like I said, you look, you're the artist. This is what I love about craft. You get an idea, your paintbrush, the paints are the apples, and the manipulation of that fruit is where the artist comes in. That's your paintbrush. So you never know what's going to come next. But the beauty, the genius of what you create is certainly there. And this has been a treat. Is there anything we haven't talked about on the podcast today? Anything you want people to know about Winterset or about you, Meghan?
I would just say, like, we have got the coolest customer base. Like, we really do. And I think that, like, the front of house girls, they just kill it here. Like, they absolutely, like, everyone loves them. And we just got this, like, hominess to us. Like, when you walk in, like, you're not only, like, you're not a customer, like, you're friends, you're a family, and we treat everyone like that too. So if you haven't been, I highly recommend it. I know you'll love it. And I know there's one of 15 plus some flavors that you will like. We'll make sure of that.
That sounds to me very in tune with Midwest sensibilities,
Absolutely.
Midwest characteristics. And, you know, one of the things that pops into my head is, I'd be remiss to ask, do you ship outside of Iowa? Can people go to your website or somewhere and order some of these? So when they hear the podcast or they want to try some of these beautiful Winterset ciders, can they get them shipped to their home?
Right. So that's been in the works for the past 6 months or so. We're working on that. That's our goal. But no, not yet. But stay tuned, because mark my words, it will happen.
Okay. Stay tuned. Just drop what you're doing. Just pause the podcast. Never listen to anything else, and just wait for Meghan to come back and say, yep, we're shipping. Here we go.
We're good to go.
Wow, yeah. Meghan, this has been a treat. And the time just flew by. And I say this, and I listen to myself say this. I can't wait to see the great things that come out of Winterset. I can't wait to see you and everybody at Portland at CiderCon, because I'm sure you're going to be there, maybe
Absolutely.
pouring again. And then people are going to come back to your table and go, you guys just keep getting better. And we're so happy. But you did, in all fairness, you had a lot of people coming up to you and enjoying your ciders. And that's a very strong, that's high praise. It really is.
It was overwhelming. I just did not expect that. Like, I really didn't. And that was like the first opportunity that I got to try everyone else's ciders too. Like, I've had cider, obviously, but like that, you were there. I mean, there was hundreds, maybe even close to 1,000 different ciders there to try. And so you got, that was amazing. It really was. It was so cool.
Well, for Dawn and I, we're so grateful that you're a friend of Fermented Adventure. And, you know, we follow you on the gram and the Facebook and stuff. And then you put stuff out that we kind of get upset about because we can't get that. But those that are in Iowa, and when they go, they get to enjoy those. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep creating new fans, raving fans of cider and Winterset. And we look forward to seeing you in person in the end of January, beginning of February in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
I appreciate it. This has been really awesome. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. I finished my 3 and you're still working on your first, aren't you?
I'm still on the clock.
All right. Well, hopefully it's close to being time for you to get off the clock and just go and enjoy the rest of your weekend and get on with it.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy those bottles tonight. Let me know what you end up pairing it with.
Broccoli.
Just broccoli.
What am I doing? Actually, it's fun because I'm gonna do pork loin with a chipotle kind of spice marinade real fast, and just some stuff. Just some stuff.
That
like
lime habanero might go real good with that.
It will. Now we're making people hungry on the podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.